Hello and welcome to the shop. Today we're just going to focus on having some fun. I have a gorgeous watch part blank that was custom cast for me by my good friend Ernie Borraga. I've been looking forward to turning this for a long time. There's been a lot of other projects that have been in the way that I had to clear off the old bench, but they're all gone and today is the day we're going to turn this blank. Now, I needed the perfect kit to make this to. I dug around online and I came up with this. It is a Junior Joshua kit from the Classic Nib. It is antique silver, and notice that right there. That's a fountain pen converter. This is going to be a fountain pen. I'm looking forward to making this. It's been a long time coming, but today we are going to have a great time and we're going to make a killer. I'm finally setting up to turn my watch parts blank. Really excited about turning this one. I'm also a little bit nervous because, I don't want to screw it up. There's a lot of work that goes into making these blanks. But I've got my blank chucked up. My roughing gouge is sharp, and I am ready to start turning. I took a little break from turning and made some adjustments to my dust collection hood. It just wasn't quite fitting properly. I've got everything aligned now, and the blank, you might notice, looks a little bit blurry. That is because I have the flip down lid engaged. And what this does is any chips that pop up that would normally have enough velocity to, hit me or go past me will hit this shield and it knocks them down. And then the volume of air will pull them back into the dust collector. So it's supposed to really do two things. Number one, keep the chips from coming at me, which I will have face mask and proper safety gear on. But number two, knock down those chips and hopefully get them into the dust collector to reduce the cleanup that I have to do after I get done turning. I've got the blank turned down. I'm a little bit proud of the bushing on this end, right on the bushing on this end. So I need one or two more passes down here. And I just want to, it looks like I'm doing a good job, but I want to make sure I keep the tool level and I pull the tool away as I get toward the other end down here, because I want this blank to be flat from end to end. And other than that, I think it looks pretty darn good. All right, let's give it one more pass and see what happens. That's much better. I was super nervous because you guys that have followed me for a long time know that when old Bob says, let's give it one more pass, that's usually when we slow the video down and watch the explosion. There's a couple of tool marks in there, but we know how to get those out. So we're going to go ahead, we'll get this one sanded down, and I think I'll go ahead and take it to the point of micro meshing it. Then we'll put a little wax on it and let it set while we turn the other blank, and we'll buff them at the same time. I've slowed the lathe down to about 850 RPMs, and we just want to take our tool marks out of the blank. That looks pretty good. We need to sand against the scratches now to lighten them up a little bit. So some of them get kind of deep, and by sanding this way, you take a little bit of that depth out of the scratches, and then the next grit of sandpaper can really do its job. All right, it's looking pretty good. I got a little bit of work to do. We want to wipe it off, and then we're looking for any spots that might be left that need to be cleaned up. I'm going to go ahead and get the camera shut off, and we're going to work through the rest of our grits of sandpaper because I really want to get my dust collector running while I'm sanding. I don't like breathing this dust. And we'll come back when the sanding is finished and look at it right before we micromesh it. Got the blank sanded down to 600. There are still a few scratches in it. They're pretty fine. I think the micromesh will clean them up. What we're going to do is work the first, say, 3 pads really hard and work them longer than we normally would to remove those scratches. You can see the slurry building, that's good. Clean the pad off and then get back after it. These first couple are the most aggressive pads, and they'll do the most cleanup of the surface, and then the rest of them just seem to really get in there and polish. Looks pretty good. Let's wipe the slurry off. Let's take a look at how she looks. Give it a second to kind of dry. Looks really good. I'm liking that. All right, let's go ahead. I'm going to shut the camera off, run through the rest of the pads, and we'll come back and show it to you right before we put a finish on it. I just finished up with the micro mesh, and I've been rolling it around, inspecting it for scratches. And every time I think I see something, I rub it, and it's just a piece of dust that's floating around the shop. So I'm super happy with the finish I've got on it. And that's just micro mesh. Look at that thing shine. It's like a candy apple red. All right, I'm going to put some Renaissance wax on the blank, and then we're going to set it aside, and it can wait to be buffed until the other blank is finished. All right, let's get her off the lathe, and we'll set her aside. Buffing soon. Let's get that other blank on the lathe. I can't wait to turn it. The lower blank is on the lathe and ready to turn. I'm going to drop the glass again, so it might get a little blurry. Apologize for that, but it really, if you could see the floor in front of me and in front of the lathe, there's almost no shavings down there, just very, very few, because they are careening off the top glass and bouncing back into the suction hose. The blank looks great. It feels incredible at both ends where it meets the bushing. We got some tool marks to work out of it, but that's nothing we can't handle. All right, let me get the lathe turned down, run a little slower, and we'll get our sanding block and some sandpaper, and we'll start sanding this blank up. We've been running at about 2,300 RPMs to turn, and to sand, we've been running down around 850 RPMs. You can really see on this blank the shiny spots. That's where the tool has sort of dug in a little bit. That's okay, all of that. With this flat block, it'll all come out. It'll be one nice level, and or it'll be all the same level, I should say, and we'll have a nice looking lower half of our blank. There you go. She's all looking scratched. That means we are level. So I'll turn it off and take a look at it. Looks really nice. Looks really nice. I'm comparing it. I'm looking down the blank along the back edge of the lathe, and it looks like there's a tiny bit of a hump still in the blank. So we're going to sand a little more in this area right here, just to try to take some of that down. And I do that sometimes. I'll look down the blank and I'll compare it to the back of the lathe. You can probably see the front part of the way here, but as I'm looking down at an angle, I compare it to the back part of the way, and I'll line the two bushings up with the way, and then I'll look down the blank and make sure if you can see if there's any humps or waviness in it. And it looked like there was a little bit of a hump in the center. Won't be there for long. All right. Oh, that looks nice. That looks real nice. And as I'm comparing it across the back of the lathe, it looks like it looks perfectly flat from end to end, which is what I was after. I'm going to get a fresh piece of sandpaper, and we're going to sand back and forth, get rid of these scratches. I'm going to go ahead and let you go at this point. You've already seen me do that to the cap of the pen, but I'll come back when I'm ready to micro mesh and show you what the blank looks like. I just finished sanding. I still have quite a few scratches in this one. I must have got a little more aggressive with the initial paper, but they're relatively shallow, so I think we can remove them with the micro mesh. If not, if they're still there after micro mesh, we'll go ahead and do a second pass. We may come back, hit it with 600, and then run through the micro mesh again. But let's just see what happens when we micro mesh this blank. I'm going to really get in there and dig with the micro mesh just to see if we can clean it up quite a bit. Already taken a lot of slurry off the blank, so that's good. Yeah, I'm removing a lot of material with this pad, so hopefully I'm getting down below those scratches. Let's let her dry and take a peek at her. Looks pretty good across the blank. Looks good on this bushing. I'm still noticing some scratching down at this end. So what I'm going to do is bring that, it got the majority of it, so I'm happy with how it looks. I'm going to bring that pad back, and I'm going to I'll work the whole blank, but I'll work this end down here a little heavier. Let me flip it to the opposite side and see what happens. Really get in there and work up next to that bushing, because that's where I noticed the biggest problem. And then we'll work across the blank. There was one or two small scratches up next to this bushing. The center of the blank looked fine, so I'm not as concerned about that, but just to keep things level and uniform, we're going to go ahead and work our way down the center as well. All right, now let's take a look at her and see what we got. I still got a few little scratches right there. That's the only spot. The rest of the blank looks great. So hey, we're going to work it one more time. Like I said, you just want to keep working the pads and checking the blank. And once you see all of those major scratches disappear, then you're ready to go ahead and work through the rest of the pads and really polish this blank up. These things do an amazing job. You just got to let them do their work. All right, that looks, oh wow, that looks amazing. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and shut the camera off. We're gonna run through the rest of our micro mesh pads, and I'll come back and show it to you as I put the Renaissance wax on it and prepare to buff it. I just finished up with the micro mesh. I'm looking it over. I don't see a single flaw in the blank. It looks absolutely stunning. Let's get a little Renaissance wax on it. All right, we're going to get this blank off of the turn between center bushings. We're going to get it slid onto a mandrel with the other blank. We'll get our buffing wheels on the lathe, and we're going to buff this blank up. The buffing wheels are on the lathe. I went ahead and put the blanks onto a mandrel so that I could more easily hold them while I'm buffing them. We are set to about 1200 RPMs, and we're ready to put a final shine on our blanks. Well, guys, I did it again. I thought the camera was on and I just was talking away and explaining what I was doing. And son of a gun, I looked and it was not recording. I do apologize, but luckily you have not missed that much. Here is the cap to the pin. And a couple of things, I just made sure I centered my clip. And the way I did it is I left a bushing in the lower half of the cap blank. And I started the cap just by pressing it about halfway in. I adjusted the clip to where I want it. And then I put it back into the press and finished pressing the cap nice and tight. I removed the bushing. This lower piece, it's a trim ring, and then it has about 3/4 of an inch plastic sleeve on it, and it's threaded on the inside. So I slid that into the pin. It went about halfway in, and then you press it the rest of the way in, and your cap is finished, and you can see it's just absolutely gorgeous. Take a look at that. Now we want to go ahead and put the lower section of the pin together. And I'm going to start out by pressing the cap end of it in first because I don't want to press against this and have the pressure while I'm pushing this in, because I don't want to take a chance at damaging my threads. So we're going to go ahead and press the cap end in first. I will leave a bushing in the opposite end of it. Open a few of those up. Let's get this. There we go. That's probably gonna, yeah, that'll let me get started. There we are. All right, beautiful, beautiful. That is threaded, so not a problem there. Everything looks good. We didn't damage anything. I'm happy about that. Now we need to press the opposite end into the pin. There's a little sleeve there. We want to make sure that stays on there. I'm going to flip it around, and I'm going to put this against the plastic ram in hopes of letting the rubber protect the threaded section. Press it right down into place, okay? Nice and gentle. We've got our converter. Now with the converter, this will snap into the nib, and you can twist the converter and see that little plunger going up and down. You twist it counterclockwise. The plunger goes all the way down. You stick it in your ink and you twist it clockwise and pull ink up into this reservoir. Now you can do this while it's connected and pull the ink through the nib, or you can basically just put this down in your ink well and pull the ink up into it and then attach it. Either way is fine. There are schools of thought on both, but we'll go ahead and just press this in. There's a little line that it presses to. All right, that's ready to go now. I'm gonna double check. That seemed kind of weird. Nope, it's just a really short little post in there. All right, that's pressed in place. All right, let's go ahead and put the cap on the pin. And there we have a gorgeous pin. Let's take a closer look at this one. It turned out absolutely gorgeous. I mean, just take a look at that pin. It is beautiful. You can post the cap if you like. I normally do not post the cap when I write. I think it just adds too much weight to the back end of the pen. Normally I'll just take the cap off, lay it on my desk and write. But this is just amazing. It's absolutely gorgeous. The color is phenomenal. It's a beautiful pen. Ernie, I want to thank you so much for sending me this blank. It was a true joy to turn. Ernie's contact information will be in the description of the video. Classic Nib, I bought the pen kit from them. This is an amazing, it's antique silver, just a gorgeous pen kit. I cannot wait to get some ink in this pen and see just how well it writes. I'd really like to thank you for joining me for this video. I would like to once again thank Ernie and Classic Nib for a great pen kit and an incredible blank. Any information I have on contacting Ernie or the Classic Nib, I'll put in the video description. Also, any of the tools I use in today's video will be listed in the video description, along with links if you want to go check them out. I had a great time turning this. I will run a converter full of ink through this pen, and then I will come back and discuss with you what I think about it. Daycom is the nib that's on this one, so I'm excited to try it out. I can't wait. I've loved using fountain pens, and I cannot wait to use I prefer to use one that I made, but so far, unless I do the bespoke kind, I haven't been happy with any of the kit fountain pens. So I'm really hoping, some of you guys have contacted me and said that this is a great pen, a great writing pen, and a great fountain pen. So this is the Junior Joshua kit. I'm not sure earlier in the video if I made a mistake and called it the Junior Gent. It basically uses the same bushings as the Gent, but it is truly called the Joshua, and it was a blast to turn. I would seriously like to thank you for joining me in the shop today. I want you to know that you are always welcome in my shop. Come back and see me again real soon, and have a great evening.